if your ultimate goal in life is simply to accumulate and acquire money, or simply to accumulate and acquire external success, you want to have a lot of money, you want to have a big house and a lot of cars, you want everybody to be jealous of you, you want to, have a claim. If that's your only goal, then I'd say, sure, don't bother wasting your time meditating or on a spiritual path. Get to work. Start making all of that money. But if you've got a life goal of anything deeper than just accumulating money or power or acclaim, which we know, by the way, is completely unfulfilling, spend time with people who are multimillionaires, people who are billionaires, people who are CEOs and presidents of top Fortune 500 companies. And what you find is they're looking for happiness in the same way that everyone's looking for happiness. There's no sense within them of, I've got all this money, therefore I'm happy. I've got this acclaim or this power or this success, therefore I'm happy. They are also one arm's length away from happiness. And so what I would say to all of these people wondering, is spirituality worth it? Is unless you have found complete fulfillment on a deep level, you are deeply happy, deeply peaceful, deeply fulfilled, inspired, uplifted, connected. Unless you are there, then a spiritual path is absolutely necessary, because it's through that path that you are going to find that happiness, that peace, that connection. Spirituality is that which shows us the truth of ourselves and the truth of our place in this universe. And until and unless we know who we are, we can't really know what to do. And when we don't know who we are and we don't know what to do, then we spend most of our lives kind of running around stressed out and upset, frustrated, angry, jealous, annoyed, depressed, miserable. So, first of all, it's definitely not boring by any means. Think about it like this. If you look at an ocean from sitting on the top of a cliff, or even just from the shore, the ocean looks beautiful. It's very still and seemingly infinite. It's beautiful. But then, if you put on snorkeling gear and you actually put your face in the water, it's so much more beautiful. You start to really be able to see the beauty of the ocean. And now I've never done scuba diving, but if you talk to people who scuba dive, they will tell you snorkeling is nothing. God, scuba diving is everything. It's so beautiful. The deeper we go, the more beautiful it is. And to say, oh, I would be bored spiritually, is like sitting on the shore looking at the ocean, thinking it's beautiful, and not scuba diving because you think you'd be bored. Like, why bother going deeper? I would just get bored. It's pretty here. Spirituality gives us that real beauty and real meaning in our lives. So, yes, I think everyone should walk a spiritual path. And of course, there's no one right way. It doesn't matter what your religion may be. It doesn't matter what your path may be. But a path that connects us to the truth of who we are, that lets us see who we really are. Because when we know who we are, then we know what to do. And when we know who we are as divine, and those layers just peel back layer by layer, then we're able to connect with that presence of the divine within ourselves. And that's the ecstasy, the bliss, the liberation, the freedom, the samadhi. And when you talk lastly about surrender, you don't have to surrender your life. Your life isn't the problem. Your life is not what keeps you miserable. It's your mind. So the only thing you have to surrender is your attachment to your anger, your ego, your false self, the illusions, ignorance, these identifications that we make about who we think we are. Those have to be surrendered. And, this was a point that I really emphasized in my book, because as you say, people here are all over the world thinking, well, I've got a life here. Do I really have to, go to India, go to the Himalayas, become a renunciant in order to have these experiences? And this was a point that in Hollywood to the Himalayas I really emphasized a lot, is you don't have to. For me, that was the physical arc. That was the plot. 25-year-old American girl comes to India with a backpack, becomes a renunciant, becomes a spiritual leader, becomes all of these things. That's the plot arc that my life took. But the transformation, the healing and the transformation can take place anywhere. Because all we have to do is shift our way of thinking from what I call the Hollywood way of thinking, which is you are your body. You are its size, its shape, its color, its race, its religion, its bank account, its role, its relationships, its title. You are that, which means, of course, you're going to be very stressed. You're going to be jealous. You're going to be competitive. You're going to be constantly judging. You're going to live in a very shallow and narrow existence. Or the Himalayan way of thinking, which says you have a body, but you're not the body. You are the soul, the spirit, consciousness, love, truth, divinity. And that shift in how we think is what creates that transformation. And so the only thing you have to surrender is that Hollywood way of thinking, that idea that you are your body, that you are your career, that you are your role, that you are your history, that you are what's happened to you. Because that was how I had identified that I was the one to whom these traumatic events had happened, that I was the one who had this life, who had these experiences, who had these struggles, these challenges, these issues. I identified as it, and so I suffered. And the Himalayan way of thinking then says you are not the body, and therefore you are not what has happened to the body. You are not that history. Again, you're the soul, you're the spirit, your consciousness, your love, your truth, your divinity. And so that's the sacrifice, the surrender that you need to make. And that's the only one. So, yeah, I've spent a lot of time over the last several months since the book came out sharing with audiences all over the world that, sure, come to the Himalayas. We'd love to have you. The ashram is open. Come to Rishikesh. We'd love to welcome you here. But that isn't necessary for your healing, for your transformation, for your awakening. What's necessary is just the shift in how you think and how you move through your world. And that can happen anywhere.